While you were probably busy waiting for another episode of House of Dragon to drop, NASA did something pretty wild. Yep guys, it literally moved a space mountain, or should we say destroyed it? In this video we're going to take a closer look at how the giant space organization managed to slam an asteroid for the first time in history, and in case you didn't know, they even filmed it. So let's see what went down. First off, NASA slams into an asteroid to save the world. When you think about space, there's a lot of cool stuff that's floating out there, from giant stars to multiple ring structures. Much of the infinite universe is still a mystery to astronomers. But while there are some things that have always fascinated scientists, a lot of the time things suspended in the Milky Way are not as interesting as others. One such example is Dimorphos, which is basically just a rock or a moonlet if you're being fancy, and hasn't been that big of a priority to NASA until very recently, at 160 meters as far as data tells us. Dimorphos is a part of the Dimorphos system that is just a small part of the river of rubble that surrounds the sun and the asteroid belt nestled in between Mars and Jupiter. In simple words, it's like dust swept between two plants, kinda like those water bottles under your bed. While the rocky object has always existed in space, it caught the attention of people at NASA when it said that it would be coming right for Earth. And considering our history, it's one hell of a threat to us and our existence as a species. But thanks to a certain project worth $330 million, we no longer have to worry about an asteroid hitting us anytime soon. The DART project, short for Double Asteroid Redirection Test, is a planetary defense scheme by NASA that aims to alter the course of hurtling objects, and last week was the first ever trial of the project, which turned out to be a huge success. Up next, so what was the DART mission like? NASA's effort to redirect the asteroid threat was an important milestone for us because it meant the start of a new era of space science that were previously just theories on paper, while the main heroes of this blockbuster event were somewhere at a physics and engineering lab. Between Baltimore and Washington, D.C., the spacecraft responsible for shooting down the asteroid was undoubtedly the star of the show. The entire collision was recorded on camera by NASA, and a slight delay of 45 seconds, but it was probably the coolest thing to see, the space object being annihilated by tiny parts of metal. Sign us up. This once-in-a-lifetime event had done a lot of good for the scientific community. For starters, this mission had allowed telescopes on Earth to get a good look around the universe, and for the first time since our accelerated tech, humanity has been able to autonomously target and alter the orbit of a celestial object, something that's never happened before. The science behind this is that when a floating object in space, or any medium for that matter, gets hit or collides with a high-speed object, then the colliding body sort of nudges the orbit and alters the course of the floating object's path. Following this simple phenomenon, NASA sets in their spacecraft armed with cameras to record the historical collision. It's then sent back a series of photographs that started from a dot to a pile of celestial rubble as it went closer and obliterated the speeding object. Let's talk about why this was even a threat. Now you might be thinking, how big of a threat can an asteroid be that had to be destroyed by NASA in order to save the world? Well, even if you're not a history buff, there's one event that took place millions of years ago that might jog your memory. While modern day technology has given us a spacecraft that can fight off floating rocks in space, the dinosaurs were not so lucky. Uncontained debris suspended in space does not seem like a major threat when you look at the bigger picture, but in recorded history, there's only been a few incidences where asteroids have greatly affected us. Unfortunately, one of those times took the mighty T-Rex away from us, and now we compensate for that thrill by making Jurassic films. The potential impact of asteroids hitting Earth is pretty simple. It'll blow up the entire planet, but that too depends on the size of the objects. In one of the papers from the Geophysical Research Letters, it was recorded to the size of asteroids can leave behind severe impacts, altering wind patterns, atmospheric pressure, thermal capabilities, seismic activity, and of course can also trigger tsunamis. The biggest worry for us would be the affected asteroid that would leave behind on the water bodies. The Earth is 2/3 water, and if something free falls in our ocean from thousands of light years away, then it's obviously going to leave behind massive consequences too. Thankfully, now modern day technology has enabled us to build our own defense against cosmic charge, but the question is, how long will it last? What's more, is NASA trying to build a planetary defense scheme? The brains behind the DART mission have called this feat similar to running a golf cart into the Great Pyramid of Giza. While currently there are no known asteroids waiting to blow us all up to bits, scientists are still keeping a close eye on all the celestial activity within Earth's orbit. There are approximately 30,000 large objects out there that are just floating rocks in space, and as per research, there are around 15,000 more that are still undiscovered. According to a planetary defense officer at NASA, NASA Lindley Johnson, asteroid impact have become increasingly rare now. They could be a once-in-a-century occurrence now, and if we're talking about an asteroid the size of Dimorphos, then it could probably happen once every 1,000 years. Regardless, given DART's successful mission and feature projects as NASA, there's a good chance NASA will increase its defensive measures to protect Earth from any future collisions, and considering how brilliant these guys are with all things related to space, we're glad it's in good hands. Moving on to other cool science-y news that might interest you. First up, NASA's Artemis launch has been delayed until November. All eyes have been on the US Space Agency's new space launch system for months now, but unfortunately the launch of the Artemis rocket has been delayed until mid-November, following the drastic effect. As per sources at space.com, NASA reported that while there are no major external or internal damages to the flight hardware, there have been a minor water intrusion that caused the launch date to be shifted. Artemis 1 was made to send an Orion capsule into space to explore more facets of the moon for an upcoming mission, and after the previous delay due to engineering issues, everyone was expected to finally see more images of the moon from different angles. Unfortunately, the devastating effects of Hurricane Ian dampened plans of the much-awaited launch, and now we'll have to wait a few weeks until Artemis finally launches into space. Following up, NASA's Crew 5 launches have been shifted to ISS. NASA's SpaceX Crew 5 mission is a 4-member mission, a joint effort between SpaceX and NASA that will send people to the International Space Station in order to conduct new and exciting scientific research, hopefully benefiting humanity. But unfortunately, like the Artemis 1 launch, this has been shifted too due to the impact of Hurricane Ian, which has been severe in southeast parts of the country. Mission teams are monitoring the activity of the calamity, and even folks at NASA are reconsidering the launch date. The spacecraft for Crew 5, although currently mated to the Falcon 9 rocket, is safely secured inside one of SpaceX's hangars at the Kennedy Space Center. Hopefully the crew will follow through with its mission soon and the hurricane dies out too. Lastly, it looks like SpaceX is studying the Hubble telescope to reboost its mission. The Hubble telescope has been a long-awaited orbiting observatory partner for astronomers, but according to recent data, it's slowly losing its altitude, which is very alarming. And if no efforts are made to reboost the instrument, then eventually the telescope will fall into the atmosphere, causing it to extinguish and burn away. The telescope was last serviced in 2009, and since then has come down by about 25 kilometers. It's now circling the Earth at the height of 540 kilometers, which is a bit less than ideal orbitary range. Engineers at SpaceX are currently studying the instrument to figure out a way to optimize their own operations in space. So far, Hubble has had a lifetime of 32 years, so it's worth studying the kind of materials used to elongate the lifetime by such a margin. Right now, SpaceX uses Dragon capsules to ferry its astronauts into space, but if they nail research on Hubble, then this 90s hero might just take over their technology. And that's a wrap for this video, my friends. What do you think about NASA's attempts to save the world? Let us know in the comment section below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more updates just like it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, see ya!